Hey everybody, it's your humble author, narrator, and fictional character, Daniel Lewis Crumpton. And for those of you who follow me on platforms like Spotify or YouTube, I wanted to share with you a newsletter that I'm sending out to my longtime subscribers from downloadedcontent.com, because we all are aware that we live in some pretty unprecedented times, and it's causing all of us to look in the mirror and question who we are in the thick of things, while the human species seems to be barreling into an epoch where it wants to unalive itself, as the kiddies say, for some reason. It's causing us all who are attuned to pause and just kind of look at things. And so I wanted to get it off of my chest, where I'm at with things, and share it with the rest of you, if not for my own sanity, to say that I put it out there. So the newsletter goes like this. Greetings, downloaders. As you may have noticed, downloadedcontent.com is currently under reconstruction, and I felt compelled to send this out, if only for myself to explain why. Some of you receiving this have been subscribers to my content going all the way back to 2008 and the inception of zeninthecar.com. Others found my work in 2012 upon publication of my novel Then Came the Flood, which is approaching its 13th anniversary, if you can believe it. Many of you have followed and enjoyed my short stories, wordy commentaries, eclectic podcasts, and plethora of collaborative works throughout the years as I have evolved as a creator, adorning myself with many titles and hats for each. In all that time, the theme of activism has been a primary bone in the body of my productions, alongside heavy tones of spirituality, as I have seen the two as an interwoven obligation to my creator. A large portion of the letters that have been produced on a page by my fingertips have been to articulate matters of activism in an effort to enact some sort of positive change throughout the systems we can barely escape. Now that trend comes to its logical end. Activism, for your humble author, narrator, and fictional character, is dead. While perhaps its heart's still beating somewhere in this country, its days are absolutely numbered. For the venom of irrelevancy has already begun coursing through its veins on the way to the heart, where it will kill it completely. Being of sound mind, I can see this fact and have been compelled to pull back for a while to rediscover who I am in light of that. After all, political activism has been a defining characteristic of my journey here on Earth for nearly 20 years. Putting down a habit like that is bound to bring up some existential questions in a guy. It'll force a man to sit down for a while and pontificate on who they are and where they want to go with the time they have left in the skin that they're in. This sort of existential crisis requires retraction of irons and fires, an activity I'm currently employing. It is becoming appallingly clear to the masses at this point that politics are nothing more than theater, whereas in generations prior the put-on was a bit more convincing when news traveled as fast as a newspaper or radio broadcast. But now, with technology having caught up, the emperor of national, world, or local politics obviously has no clothes. When we have come to a time when the so-called leader of the free world is literally a game show host, and this will be the second time the nitwits of America have allowed him to reach such stature, you have to confess that you do not have a country or government to save. You have a production that must be endured until it's canceled, like a Netflix show that started off with a few good seasons, but honestly should have aired its finale 3 seasons ago. To have lived with the gnosis that all things perceived as government is actually for-profit corporations and their politicians nothing more than daytime soap stars selling the citizens the drama of illusion has been more than maddening. Dancing and singing and selfieing the sales pitch to the people that it's in their best interest that government grows and grows and grows, and no matter what it looks like, their programs and operations are most certainly not for mere revenue generation. These facts have sat under my hat for quite some time, and while I'm pleased to see the majority of Americans now coming to the hard, cold truth of it, I can merely shrug and utter, too little, too late. Rolling apathy is what got you here. Generational who gives a fuck brought you to this destination. A mad, pedophile, human trafficking con artist with a cult of hillbilly retards from sea to shining sea have completely taken your country from you and your progeny. This apocalyptic death cult has managed to ejaculate the dumbest motherfuckers in every level of your government, causing a system failure in every branch. The corporation of the United States is full steam ahead on a crazy train with the bridge up ahead completely out. There is no way to slow it down, and there is no way to stop the momentum of its cataclysmic destruction. It has already, in a few short months, built up enough speed to break the sound barrier. And believe me, because I have watched for years, this type of bullshit doesn't happen overnight. No, this pot started its slow boil long ago, even before the prophets of the inevitable, such as yours truly, were labeled conspiracy theorists, truthers, nutcases, and a litany of other derogatory slurs to discredit the warning we were wailing about. For me, this time in American history is the cosmic moment of, I told you so, and not in a fashion with sackcloth and ashes. Rather, a sardonic smile of, you get what you deserve. Because that's the truth. As uncomfortable as it may feel, the current administration and state of affairs in the nation and interconnected world is exactly the fruits from the labor of the majority, who could afford their apathy and ignorance, yet want to grumble now that the bill has come due. What is transpiring around you all is the very result of every poor decision the collective has made in its asinine efforts to herald, protect, and preserve mob rule democracy. To even hear meat sacks that think they sound intelligent using the word democracy as if it's some precious sacred thing causes acidity in the back of my throat and uncontrollable eye rolls to the invisible studio audience of the gods. To make matters even more ridiculously worse, the same poorly written scripts playing out in DC are being used by the local subsidiaries of the Corporation of the United States in your own town and city halls. Parrot politicians who've sworn oaths to a document and its ideals that they simply have not read, felt, or been moved by. They hold up their hand and vow to protect and preserve a document of divine dictation and violate its edicts at the very nature of their daily work, believing themselves to be public leaders or for humility's sake servants. In fact, they are little more than employee cogs in the machine of the beast, impotent to serve the people or protect their constitution. Of course, this tirade is not towards those of you who were doing the work. This you know, and you know who you are. This scripture I am spitting, as the kiddies say, is not offending you in the slightest, rather forcing an up until now unconscious nod of agreement. Since our own personal moment of awakening and in our own time, we have warned anyone who would listen that the horrific plot of 1984 was not just good science fiction, it was the game plan all along. We tried to plead that this totalitarian surveillance state was not just a probability, but an inevitability if the people themselves refused to own their sovereignty and claim their unalienable rights with fervor. They did not, have not, and do not. Therefore, this fascist police state specializing in ethnic cleansing and reducing all souls to numbers and ledgers has prospered and successfully taken America for its own. As it turns out, the great experiment resulted in Frankenstein's monster. With the flatlining of the Republic long having been on life support, what good can activism really do anymore? What else would beating the chest on the corpse of a country be but the expulsion of wasted energy in a hopeless attempt to resurrect the dead? Which is the reason your humble author, narrator, and fictional character has made the decision to wash his hands of the task and enjoy the few remaining grains of sand in the hourglass, circling the singularity towards the other side. We tried our best, but gravity always wins. Of course, it's not in my nature to hover over doom or gloom. Seeking the silver lining has always been one of my strongest suits. And the silver lining in the death of America is that in time, something else will come into being. From the dunghill, diligent beetles will roll new life towards the sun, and with some retrospect, perhaps something far better will emerge. The generations that will still feel the pain and sorrow of our republic's fall might guard liberty much more fervently in the epoch that is emerging. For those of us in the know, this whole show is cyclic in nature and there is nothing new under the sun. With my last tour of duty and activism behind me, I exhale in relief that for the first time in a long time, I am free to return to that which I love most, painting on the mistress of the white blank page the worlds and their gods that play out in the theater of my mind's eye. All I've ever wanted in this life was to write novels and weave stories in multiple formats that enrich and inspire the lives of others. My calling has always been to be a polite guest in the minds of others who cracked open any tale told by one Daniel Lewis Crumpton. Hence, from this point forward, that passion is my primary preoccupation. DownloadedContent.com will be overhauled to accommodate this ambition as your humble author, narrator, and fictional character prepares his catalog of writing to soon spring forth. This shouldn't be too much of a problem, as there are so many stories I've put off in telling until the world was saved that now I am free to bring to life. The novel I'm currently working on in particular has me very excited. More to come on that in future newsletters, though, as I can't give away my dopamine now for fear it would deflate the process of writing. Until then, download Then Came the Flood to your favorite e-reading doohickey to tide you over, and be sure to subscribe to the Downloaded Content podcast as well as my YouTube channel to stay up to date on my work moving forward. The content will continue to flow from DLC, only now without the anchor of activism slowing me down, which is sure to excite my readers of a spiritual or occult inclination, as my aim is to lean fully into those aspects of my outlets. Thank you, longtime subscribers of my work. You guys have always been the most unique and supportive readers. In a world riddled with ADHD, it's good to know there are still some who appreciate the written word, and your feedback on my work has always come at just the right time in just the right way for yours truly. Keep an eye on your inbox for future newsletters from Downloaded Content, as announcements on podcasts, publications, the launch of Season 2, and the relaunch of the website will be made in that way. Until then, well wishes from the pen of the man who sits in the void. Sincerely, DLC. So anyway, I wanted to get that out to you guys. Let me know if it resonated with you in the comments wherever you're watching this. But I did want to keep you guys who have followed me for a long time abreast of kind of where I'm going with things. I may in future podcasts rant a little bit as to the details of what has brought me to the logical conclusion that I'm going to go grab a fucking fiddle and watch this shit burn. And I think that's the most rational thing to do at this point. It really is. Because if you're still caught into the illusion that what's going on in the theater of politics is anything other than energy harvesting to have you fixated with every flick of the thumb on what they do, when all you really, for your mental health, should be doing is simply ignoring them unless it comes to your door, then I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in to my ramblings. I really appreciate it. And you got to stay well out there. We live in some very, very interesting times. So until the next thing from DLC pops up on your screen, peace.
In an age of orchestrated deceit, where every screen screams contradiction and truth is buried beneath propaganda, clarity is rebellion. That's why this message is brought to you by CannaSense Total Wellness. Because in times like these, the only real defense is a clear mind, a grounded soul, and optimal mental health. Plant medicine isn't just an option, it's a necessity. Joining is free. Just go to CannaSense.com, fill out a sponsorship form, upload a photo ID showing you're 21 or older, and use DownloadedContent.com as your sponsor. First orders get 25% off. Veterans and cancer survivors receive additional discounts. Stay aware, stay well. With CannaSense Total Wellness. Sanity in an insane world starts here.
Hey everybody, it's your humble author, narrator, and archer,